We see all these amazing trading strategies that come out of backtesting, they look so good on paper, but when you actually try to trade them live, well, things can get a little messy.
Right. That smooth upward curve you saw in the backtest. It doesn't always translate so perfectly in reality, does it?
It really doesn't. Today, we're going to dive deep into what causes that disconnect between theory and reality. The folks at Jim Simon's Renaissance Technologies, they called this problem the devil, and it's all about those real-world costs that eat away at your trading profits.
The thing is, though, the article from Quantitative we're looking at today doesn't just surrender to the devil. It actually offers a really practical, step-by-step approach to tackling this head-on.
It does.
We're not getting lost in abstract theory here. This is about focusing on a specific trading strategy and a detailed execution plan to minimize slippage. That pesky difference between the price you want and the price you actually get. It's where the beautiful math of trading collides with the harsh realities of the market.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we setting out to achieve in this deep dive? We want to understand a practical technique for minimizing trading costs, especially slippage, when you enter a position right at the market open.
Right.
This is particularly crucial for high-frequency trading strategies, where, tiny fractions of a cent per trade can mean the difference between a great year and a terrible year.
Absolutely.
So if you ever wondered how to bridge that gap between what you see in your backtests and what actually happens when you start trading live, well, stick with us because you're in the right place.
Thank you for tuning in to Quantopian's Quant Radio, your AI-driven podcast exploring everything related to quantitative finance. If you enjoy this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on future releases. For more quant-focused content, join us at community.quantopian.com. There you can explore a wealth of resources, connect with fellow quants, engage in insightful discussions, and enhance your skills through our extensive range of online courses. Quant Radio is intended to help people develop their knowledge and skills in quant finance. This podcast is not intended to provide investment advice. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, and this all ties back to why legends like Jim Simons were obsessed with precision. The book, The Man Who Solved the Market, really highlights how Renaissance Technologies was all about data-driven decisions. And that includes squeezing every last drop of profit by minimizing costs.
Absolutely.
And don't forget, even small amounts of slippage, like let's say 20 basis points, can really hurt your returns, especially when you're doing thousands of high-frequency trades with tight margins. Remember, a basis point is just 0.01%.
Right, it adds up fast. To illustrate all this, let's dive into the specific strategy that the article uses as an example. It's a long and short strategy. They detailed it in a previous article called Long and Short Mean Reversion Machine Learning.
Yeah, I remember that one.
You don't need to have read that article to follow along with us today.
No, not at all.
But there are a couple of key things about this strategy that are worth highlighting.
For sure. What jumps out at me right away is just how many trades it makes. This strategy does like an average of 7 or 8 trades every single day.
Yeah, that's a lot of trading activity.
And when you're trading that frequently, even a tiny bit of slippage on each trade can become a major drag on your overall profitability.
It can, for sure. And they really drive this point home with some eye-opening performance numbers.
Yeah, how about that?
They show that the annual return from the strategy could swing wildly depending on slippage. Like, with 20 basis points of slippage per trade, you're looking at a decent 23.1% return.
Not bad.
But reduce that slippage to just 2 basis points, and suddenly you're talking about a whopping 41.9% return.
That's a huge difference.
Right. It's a powerful illustration of how real the devil is. It's not some theoretical concept. It directly impacts your bottom line.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Now, this particular strategy is sensitive to slippage and has another interesting characteristic. It requires placing orders right at the market open.
Ah, okay.
So that brings us to the challenge we're trying to solve today. How can you execute those opening orders with as little slippage as possible consistently?
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, don't market on open or MO orders solve this problem. You just place your order and it gets filled at the market open, right? The article even quotes Interactive Broker's description of MO orders, where they say they're automatically submitted at the market open and filled at the market price.
So what's the catch? Why isn't everyone just using MO orders and calling it a day?
Right. Why even bother with this whole article? Well, the article points out 2 big problems with MO orders. First, they're not simulated very accurately in paper trading accounts.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is, because, before you risk any real money, you want to make sure your strategy works.
Of course.
And if your paper trading results don't reflect what's actually going to happen when you trade live...
You're flying blind.
Exactly. The second problem is that even in live trading, there's no guarantee that your MO order will actually be filled at the official opening price. Things like liquidity, how easily you can buy or sell the instrument, and which exchange your order is routed to, can all affect the price you end up getting.
That makes sense.
So relying only on MO orders introduces a level of uncertainty. And that's something quantitative traders who are all about precision and predictability want to avoid as much as possible.
Makes total sense. So what do they propose instead?
They propose a much more controlled and reliable solution. A detailed execution algorithm, one that's designed to get you as close to the opening price as possible.
Oh, interesting. They're not even aiming for perfection right out of the gate.
Well, initially they say it's okay if the algorithm misses an order sometimes. The main goal in this first version is to really minimize slippage, even if it means missing out on a few trades.
I like that. Prioritize avoiding losses first, right?
Exactly. So how does this algorithm work its magic? It gets into the nitty-gritty of the Interactive Brokers API and how it behaves during those crucial market opening moments. We're not talking about abstract concepts here. We're getting into the technical nuts and bolts.
Oh, I love it when we get down to the details.
Me too. What's crucial is knowing exactly when that open price information becomes available through the API.
Okay, yeah, timing is everything, especially at the open.
So the article explains that if you're streaming real-time prices during regular market hours, the API usually sends you the official open price just once, right when continuous trading begins.
Makes sense.
But if you start your data stream before the market opens, you get pre-market data, but the actual open price won't come through until 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And even then, it only comes after the opening auction for that specific instrument is over.
Right. Each instrument has its own little mini auction to determine the open price.
Yeah. And the length of those auctions can vary too.
So that's an added wrinkle.
It is. So with this understanding of how the API behaves, the first version of the algorithm has a few key steps. You have to start your trading program sometime before the market officially opens. Then the program requests real-time pricing data for all of the instruments the long and short strategy plans to trade that day. And here's where it gets interesting. The program sets up what's called a callback mechanism. Think of a callback as the program telling the API, hey, when you get that open price information, let me know, and then run this specific function I wrote to handle it.
Ah, like an alert system.
Exactly. So the program has a function that just sits there listening to the stream of price updates. And as soon as it hits 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, this callback function is triggered. It grabs those reported opening prices for each of the instruments the program's tracking and stores that information in the program's memory.
Smart. So it's not relying on the API to just send that data once, it's actively capturing it.
That's it. Then we get to what might sound a little intimidating, an infinite loop.
Oh, infinite loop. Sounds dangerous.
It's not as scary as it sounds. It basically means the program enters this continuous cycle of checking. Inside this loop, the algorithm keeps checking whether the opening price for each instrument it's supposed to trade has been stored in its memory, and it does this constantly.
Why the constant checking?
It's all about being as precise as possible in capturing that exact opening price. It's like if you only check once every few seconds, you might miss that first price update.
Right. It's a trade-off. Constant monitoring is more resource-intensive, but you're much less likely to miss that critical price.
Exactly. And as soon as the opening price for a specific instrument pops up in the program's memory, boom, the algorithm kicks into gear. It immediately places a limit order to either buy or sell that instrument at the exact opening price it just received.
Okay. It's using a limit order here, not a market order, right?
That's right. That way, you have more control over the price you're willing to trade at.
I see. That makes sense.
Now, the program also keeps track internally of which orders it's already placed, just to avoid accidentally submitting the same order twice.
Oh, good point. Got to have those checks and balances.
Absolutely. And there's one more crucial element in this loop, a time limit.
A time limit? For what?
So let's say some of those initial limit orders don't get fully filled by the market within a certain period. The algorithm will automatically cancel those unfilled orders, and then the program shuts down for the day.
So it's not going to chase those orders forever.
Nope. Remember, this first version of the algorithm is all about minimizing potential slippage, even if it means missing out on a trade every now and then.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Prioritize risk management.
Exactly. The article briefly mentions something else that's important in software development.
What's that?
Logging.
Ah, right. Keep a record of everything that's happening.
Yeah, detailed logging. It lets you go back and see exactly how the algorithm performed, helps you spot any issues and debug the code.
Super important for finding and fixing those pesky bugs.
It is. And they talk about the specific data structures they're using. Things like managing the list of orders that need to be executed, tracking their status with the broker, keeping tabs on the symbols being traded, and monitoring which orders have already been placed.
Oh, yeah, that's all crucial for keeping the program organized and efficient.
Totally. And they keep coming back to that time limit for canceling unfilled orders. That really underscores their focus on avoiding slippage, even if it means leaving some potential profit on the table.
Got it. So this first version, it's a solid starting point, but
But there's always room for improvement, right?
right.
They go on to describe a more robust version of the algorithm. This one doesn't just cancel unfilled or partially filled orders after that time limit. It actually replaces those limit orders with market orders.
Oh, that's interesting. So instead of giving up on those trades, it's willing to take on a bit more risk to make sure they get filled.
Exactly. The big change happens in a part of the code called the open order and callback method. Instead of just canceling the order, the algorithm changes the order type from limit to market and then resubmits it to the exchange.
Okay, so it's adapting on the fly. If it can't get filled at the limit price, it switches to a market order to make sure it gets in.
Exactly. And they built in a mechanism to prevent the algorithm from repeatedly replacing the same order with a market order.
Oh, smart move.
Yeah, if there's a sudden drop in liquidity at the market open, you don't want the algorithm to just keep sending market orders and potentially getting worse and worse prices.
Right, that could spiral out of control.
It could. And this enhanced version also handles a less common but still important situation.
What's that?
What if the API, for some reason, just doesn't stream the opening price within that initial time window?
Oh, that's tricky.
It is. So in that case, after the time limit is up, the algorithm will place a market order right away.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotta have a backup plan for those unexpected scenarios.
Exactly. It recognizes that real-world market data feeds aren't always perfect. They can have glitches, you know? So what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
Well, as the article nicely puts it, the devil is in the details.
Love that saying. This deep dive into a specific execution algorithm shows just how important those little details of implementation are. If you want to turn a promising trading strategy into a real-world moneymaker, you got to sweat the small stuff.
Absolutely. And if we connect this back to the theory of quantitative trading, it highlights something fundamental. Even the most elegant, statistically sound strategy can flop if it's not executed properly in the live market. Minimizing those seemingly tiny costs, like slippage, it's not an afterthought. It's absolutely crucial for success.
I couldn't agree more. And this detailed example they give is a great building block. You can use it for reliable live forward testing and eventually for profitable live trading.
Totally. And as the article points out, this is just a starting point. You can build on this foundation in so many ways. Optimize your order execution even further. They suggest things like dynamically adjusting the price of your limit order over time. Maybe increase your buy limit or decrease your sell limit by a tiny bit every few seconds. Or use more sophisticated functions to tweak that limit price until the order is filled. Or maybe cancel it if it hits a certain price threshold.
Yeah, lots of possibilities there.
Exactly. It's all about tailoring your execution to your specific trading strategy and the instruments you're trading.
This shows that quantitative trading is a continuous process. You're always looking for an edge. And that means not just refining the core logic of your strategy, but also every aspect of how it's actually put into action in the market.
Right down to the millisecond level.
Exactly. So after seeing how intricate order execution can be, think about this. What other tiny, often overlooked details might be having a huge impact on the performance of strategies or systems you use? You know, it's a good reminder that sometimes those beautiful theoretical models need a healthy dose of real-world engineering to actually work.
Absolutely. And the potential for innovation in algorithmic order execution is massive.
It is.
It's a field that's constantly evolving, where advancements in implementation can be just as game-changing as new strategies themselves.
So true. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep those analytical minds sharp, everyone. Until next time.